Welcome to the Reticle Up podcast, where I, 3-Gun Kenzie, will be interviewing competitive shooters, hunters, fishermen, archers, entrepreneurs, and outdoorsmen. Come learn with me as I interview people from all walks of life, in different disciplines, all across the world, from novices to professionals of all ages. No matter what, everyone has something they can teach you, so come join me on the journey. The Reticle Up podcast is produced in partnership with AmericanFirearms.org. American Firearms' mission is to recommend what works. We believe everyone deserves access to unbiased, helpful information about firearms, and our buying guides, product reviews, and learning resources are designed to help real people find the stuff that will work best for them. Check us out at www.americanfirearms.org. Welcome back, listeners, to Reticle Up podcast. I'm here with Lane Nelson. He is a master shooter in carry optics. I got to shoot with him recently at a match, which was really fun to watch. He's 19 years old and he's wicked fast. Lane, I'm so glad you're on the show here. So thanks for joining me.
Great to be on. Thank you, Mackenzie.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I want to know actually, like when you got started, how old were you? And was that something you initiated or something like your parents, said, let's go shooting, or how that work?
So I guess I'll start at the very beginning. So I was 3 years old the first time I ever shot a rifle or any type of gun. Wow. And scared the hell out of me. My dad took me out, shot a single shot 22 rifle, absolutely scared of it. Came out a year later when I was 4, started shooting, loved it. We'd always go up. We have a camp in north central Pennsylvania, and we'd go up and shoot all the time up there, 22s and stuff. And then I got into competitive shooting around 10 years old, but it was more of silhouette style shooting. So like the chickens, pigs, and turkeys and rams, that stuff. Shot out at Ridgeway Rifle Club, Central PA. I think I made either AA or AAA class in the hunter division, which is like basically a 22 rifle you go squirrel hunting with or something like that.
Yeah.
And shot that for 2-3 years, not a whole lot, but I just kind of lost love for it, honestly. Just wasn't fast enough pace. And right about the time I was like 12 years old, I saw the Hot Shots TV show. I don't know if you're familiar with that, with Marksmanship. Yep. And that was like the world to me. I watched every episode, make sure to never miss one, all that stuff. Max was probably the biggest like inspiration to get into like action pistol type shooting. Oh. And that entire show really. And right around that age, I became infatuated with pistols, like 12, 13. Got my first 22 pistol, which I still have today, the Ruger SR22. I wore out 2 slides in a year, not even shooting, just dry firing, out of a waistband and a cardboard mag carrier, like little thing that I put on my football belt. So I wore out both aluminum slides on that. And then, I was just pestering my dad to get a 9mm, let me compete, because it's like I saw Max and I saw how dominant he was in everything, and saw him shooting 2014 Worlds and all that. I'm like, I want to do that. Like that's my path. I want to do that. And in 2019, we were looking at different handguns and stuff because I knew I wanted to compete in USPSA. I didn't know what division. I saw the rise in carry optics because I did a lot of research on each division and stuff. And so I chose carry optics eventually, and researched different guns to shoot, priced out a Glock 34, a couple of different guns, and eventually came to a Canik TP9 SFX and priced it out. And just economically, it worked for me. It made the most sense to me. I could get it up and race ready, the cheapest and the quickest. So in 2019, I believe April, for my birthday, my dad and I think I actually gave him the money, but he bought it, bought the SFX. So I bought it, and then in April, and then competed in my first match in June. But it wasn't a USPSA sanctioned match. It was just kind of like an outlaw, just good old boy get together type match. I actually won the thing. I was 16, I think. Yeah, I actually won the thing overall in carry optics and in just overall against everyone. So that kind of got me hooked. I was like, okay, I might be pretty good at this. So I went to two more of those matches that year. Again, really didn't have any connection with USPSA yet. And then 2020 rolled around, and I joined USPSA and shot USPSA sanctioned matches. And I shot 3 majors that year, and then led into 2021, and then led into 2022. So
Cool. Okay. So
kind of start to finish there. A little bit long-winded, but
no, it's good. I have now a million questions on all that whole process. One of the first things I actually want to know, have you told Max Michel that he was your inspiration?
no, I've never met Max, never spoken to him, not at all.
Okay.
There was a couple other guys, but Max was like the one that I saw first because of Hot Shots, and I was like, that's what I want to be, you know.
Awesome. Yeah, so. I just had Travis Tomasi on the podcast. We were talking about how he had like a cameo appearance with Max in that show. But that really was a catalyst. Right. Yeah, that show was really a catalyst for a lot of people to see shooting, which is really, I mean, like you said, impactful. Sure. So I think you should tell Max one day, whether that's a DM or in person. We'll talk about nationals, because I think that's cool to know. For sure. Yeah. I mean, I hope to meet him one day. Yeah, definitely. So hopefully soon. Would you be a fanboy or just like chill? No, I'm not a fanboy of any of them. If you want to know the truth, a lot of guys like bought the P320 Maxes, and that for some reason just doesn't sit with me. I don't like buying anything, whatever it is, with someone else's name on it. I want to make my own path, and that's no disrespect to Max. All the respect to Max, but I want to make my own path. I don't want to follow. I want to do it on my own. You know, I don't want to draft off of someone per se. For sure. But no, some people might find that excessive, but no, I mean that makes sense. The question I had, like, too, when you were getting started in 2019 too, like you said, you gave your dad the money or whatever. How did you earn money or like pay off like firearms or whatever? Because your parents obviously had a lot of support, I think, for shooting, right? Yeah, there's definitely a lot of support there. A little bit uncertain in the beginning. My mom was very like, "Where's this going to lead? Where's this going to go?" And you know, I've always kind of said firm, like, you know, you need to do what you love in life, and you can't always just be go 100% of the time and always be out there to make the next buck. You know, you have to slow down and enjoy things, and not everything has a paycheck behind it. You know, I mean, this could at some point have a paycheck behind it, but right now that's not what I'm concerned about. I'm just concerned about building my proficiencies, introducing people into the sport, growing the community, all those good things in which I practice as much as possible. Yeah. So, yeah, that's awesome. So, but, to answer your question, I worked a couple different jobs. I did a lot of lawn mowing, lawn care. My sister has a beach glass jewelry business, so I made like ankle bracelets with her, and they were like $5 a pop, and made a lot of money doing that because we traveled all over the East Coast. So going to different craft shows and stuff, major craft shows, which I slowly grew to hate, just because it was, the first one I went to, I was 3 months old, and I haven't stopped going. So I get they were fun for a while, but you know, setting up and tearing down, everyone's like, "Oh, don't you love it?" It's like, it gets old after a while, because you know, it's like every weekend you're going to something. But you know, I still do enjoy some of them. But that's kind of how I paid for everything, all my gear. I think total, like, bar to entry for the pistol was right around just under $1,000, like $800. Granted, now I've upgraded my dot, so it's probably right at $1,000 for the gun. Probably total, like, all gear, under $1,500 to get into it. And that was kind of my goal, was just to really keep costs down, because I knew with like not having full support from my family, because they were kind of uncertain, this was new to them. Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of people don't get. Like, they're like, "Oh, like father, like sons." Like, no, they weren't into this at all. I broke in completely on my own. So it was, I knew I couldn't spend a lot, you know, like I knew that wasn't an option. Granted, they've been super supportive over the years, and I've gained support because they kind of understand the passion now, and it's, you know, it's more smooth, if you will. Absolutely. Yeah. So, okay, let's go to the guns and the gear then. I'm a huge Canik fan. That's like something that's like public knowledge. So I have the SFXs. I'm shooting the Rival now, completely stock with a Trijicon SRO on it, and I'm obsessed. So I took a class.
How do you like that?
Oh, I'm in love. I mean, it's insane how that trigger, like normally I would switch out the triggers. I'm not going to touch that trigger. I might lighten like the slide tension spring or whatever, and then do a tungsten guide rod, but it doesn't need it. Like to run, doesn't need it. Shoot lights out. I did weigh it down. Like I put a brass back strap on it, from Taylor Freelance, and put the brass base pad. So it is a little bit heavier, which is what I need coming from a 2011 world. Yeah. So, what's your experience with the Canik that you bought, and what have you done to yours?
So I had it here with me. When I bought it, I honestly didn't even shoot it stock. Not one round for this has been stock, to a degree. I haven't totally molested it in every which way, but. So initially, I actually bought the, I don't know if you can see here, but the Springco recoil management system. So it's a dual recoil spring, stainless steel guide rod.
Yep.
I bought that before I bought the gun, actually.
You knew.
Yeah. So I had that before I had the gun, because they're notoriously oversprung, and everyone will tell you that. And that came with, they had a little kit going on. So that came with their, the Springco striker spring as well. They have a 29 Newton striker spring, which converts to 6.51 pounds, which is like drastically less than the stock one. The stock one's over 10, I think. And this is still stronger than an extra power Glock spring. So it'll ignite any and everything. But it lightened up the trigger significantly to where now I'm probably running at 2.5 pounds. I've never put a trigger gauge on it.
Is that the stock trigger though that you have on that one?
Yes, that's just the stock trigger shoe.
It's cool.
Yep. All stock. That's really it. Like a lot of people think I'm going to go into like major detail. It's like spring and guide rod and striker spring, and that's it. For like mechanical parts.
Yeah.
Everything else, like I got the SRO up top here.
Which a lot of people don't know. When you add mass to a pistol, especially a red dot, like that's going to take more weight for the slide to move. So you do need to change the spring out, especially if you're using like heavier bullets, like 147s. I mean, it's slower, right? So like that's really important.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, the SRO, and then I added the Taylor Freelance brass back strap here, which adds like 3.5, 4 ounces. They actually, both of those companies, Springco USA and Taylor Freelance, I picked up as sponsors.
Nice.
So that's obviously very grateful to them. I appreciate all their help and all their encouragement. Hopefully it'll make them proud here soon. I'm shooting the main match this weekend, the Trident Armory Standby to Fly. So hopefully we can make them proud there. That's honestly it. I got the extensions, but I think everyone knows that from Taylor Freelance. I mean, that's assumed. A little bit of skate tape, but that's not. For the most part, it's a stock gun. A lot of people will think like you need something really tricked out to compete with, and you don't. The pistol I bought for $401 because I was tracking it on gun deals, and it was funny. It dipped down to $383, I think, and my dad and I were like, "Well, let's watch it a little bit more," and then it went back up to like $450, and then it dropped, and we got it at $401. So yeah, I mean, dot and pistol together. Gun's about $1,000 to get into it. So, I think it's definitely important for people to know, especially in trying times, as we are in now. It's not as expensive as one might think to get into competitive shooting. And honestly, this is more expensive than you even need. You could run a box stock Glock 17 or Glock 19 or what have you, and you can win matches with that. It's really the Indian, not the arrow, when it comes to anything that is anything that's skill based.
Yeah. Now, have you kept up with like Nils' guns as well and what he does to his Caniks? Because it's not much at all.
Yeah. So I actually was like tracking Canik before he was even on the team. Like I knew like that's what I was going to get before he was even on. And then once he got added, obviously it was just a whole nother, just a whole nother positive to it.
Yep.
But so I talked to him a couple times. I talked to him at Area 5. I actually have a buddy that used to live like down the street from Nils in Arizona, and he used to shoot with them every week.
Oh,
So they were really great friends, but they kind of disconnected just because he moved back over on the East Coast like 5 or 6 years ago. So we were talking about maybe planning a trip out to Arizona to shoot with Nils. This past winter just didn't work out, so maybe this upcoming winter. Yeah, I know he doesn't do much to the guns either. I mean, they're pretty much ready to go out of the box. You don't need to do a whole lot.
Yep. So
yeah,
what did you figure out with your, belt system, magazine pouches? Was that something like you bought used or new, or because that's a lot of the budget as well that people think about?
Yeah. So I did my research on belts, and what I kind of found is that like everyone's using the same material, whether it's a double alpha or a Blade Tech, which is what this is. This is just the Blade Tech, I think, speed belts or something. So it's like $50. Okay. And it's got an inner soft belt and an outer stiffer hard belt. I started out with a Smoky Mountain concealment holster, and that was a really great holster. But the tensioning screw I had some issues with would come loose on me like extremely frequently. And I even used Loctite. I think it might have just been a lemon, but I switched to T-Rex arms. So I run all the T-Rex arms, Mars Carrier, and a Ragnarok holster.
Nice.
I did have Blade Tech pouches before, just the El Cheapo. Like originally my setup was $50 for the belts, 3 mag pouches at $20 a piece. So $110 for the whole shebang, plus the holster. So right now, probably with each carrier, 75, it's probably like $225, $250 for the whole setup right now. Yeah. So that's what I'm currently running, and just a Blade Tech drop and offset. A lot of people, I get a lot of crap for that because people are like, it's a garbage hanger. But honestly, it's like, it works,
If it works for you, then there's no reason to make fun of it at all. Again, if it works for you, run
certainly. Because I mean, it is just plastic, and most people are like, you need to get a good metal one, and it's like, it hasn't broken, it hasn't failed me, so I mean, I don't need to really change. I don't see a point spending more money on it, but that's the setup. T-Rex, I just wanted to kind of convert all my gear to T-Rex, and that's what I did, even with my rifle stuff. Because I really love T-Rex and their support of the 2A community, and I love what they're doing in the community, and bringing people in and trying to support the growth of the community. And people will rag on Lucas Bodkin and stuff, and I think at the end of the day, he's inspired more people to get involved with firearms and training and becoming more proficient than most people that rag on him will ever do in their entire life. But
very true. Have you met him?
No, I have not. Hope to at some point. People will probably say I'm a fanboy. It's like, I just look at data. I'm going into mechanical engineering. I'm a data guy. I just look at the facts and make my judgment off that. So
no, I have a few of his holsters, and like you said, he is very controversial for sure. But like you said, he makes really good videos, very good instructional videos, and he does know what he's talking about. He used to shoot a little bit of 3-gun back in the day, so I've seen him at a couple different matches and talked to him. He's cool. I mean, he's just a young dude that started a business in his basement, and the people that are hating are the people that will never do that, right? Like, he's so successful. So
people always hate on success. They'll always prey on your downfall when you're up on a pedestal. So and I don't put him on a pedestal like some people do. There are definitely fanboys, and I don't agree with fanboying in general, just because I think if you're so infatuated with a person that you're like willing to ignore faults and clear disparities, like that's kind of a dangerous line to walk. But that's the whole setup.
Okay. So take me back. Like, I know you said that you shot when you were 3 years old and 4 and all of that, but did you ever get started like in Steel Challenge or shooting anything other than outlaw matches, or just did you go straight to USPSA?
I shot one Steel Challenge match, and let's just say I was not the happiest person that day. It was like almost 100 degrees in Ohio. I shot with a buddy of mine, and I was just shooting 22 rifle, and it was a miserable day. So I think that kind of put a taint on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I never shot steel challenge. Like I said, I got into silhouette shooting at about 10 years old and competitively shot out at, like I said, Ridgeway Rifle Club in Central PA, which is a massive NRA club. They hold all their championships there, and I believe it's one of the biggest ranges east of the Mississippi, because you can shoot out to 1,100 yards there.
Nice.
So yeah, that's how I got started competitively, and then, like I said, I kind of lost an interest just because it wasn't as fast paced. It was too centralized on accuracy, and accuracy is important, but fundamentally, you need a good balance of both, in my belief. Unless if you're trying to be a 10-ring bullseye shooter in the Olympics, that's the only reason, in my opinion, to shoot bullseye, or something of that sort. But
yeah. So, did you ever shoot iron sights before putting the dot on the gun?
yes, I did. I shot iron sights for 2 months on the pistol. And then a week before the match, my first match in June of 19, I put on a Vortex Venom and then started shooting a dot. And that dot I shot for a year and a half. Served me well, but as most people know, the LED is just not bright enough on those. It just doesn't last. So I switched to the SRO, and that has served me extremely well. I actually just changed the battery before the Western PA Championship.
Nice.
The battery was fine, honestly. I just changed it more out of just some extra insurance.
Yeah, better to have it. Yep.
Yeah, and that's the original battery too. That's been in there for like year and 8 months ish.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go that long, but that's me.
Yeah. So I honestly wanted to test it.
Sure.
But yeah, I just swapped it, so it should be good to go for another year or so now.
Nice. So, okay, you've got the gun, you got the setup, we switch over to Trijicon, but just in general, like going back towards when you just switch over to the dots the first time, how did you know how to train yourself? Like, did you dry fire? Did you watch videos to know how to train in live fire? Like, how do you even set up like an educational system for you to get good?
So, a lot of people asked when I started shooting pistols competitively, like, did I have a coach, or is this a father-son thing, or did I take classes or anything? And the answer is no to all of that. Like, I didn't have a coach. Dad hardly shoots. Honestly, I can't even remember the last time he pulled a live trigger, if you want to know the truth. And I didn't take any classes or anything like that. I mostly self-taught or YouTube taught, if you will. I watched a lot of Max's videos, a lot of JJ Ricazza, who I think is another very inspirational guy, and Robert Vogel, who was another huge influence on me. I would say Robert Vogel, Max Michel, JJ, and Christian Saylor were probably the biggest influences on my outlook on shooting. Yeah. Just because that's the people I watched. Robert Vogel, like if you look at my grip, it's a Robert Vogel grip. Okay. It's kind of like a mix, though. It's not entirely Robert Vogel. It's like 50% Robert Vogel, 20% Lucas Bog. It's a conglomerate of things. I tried to piecemeal the best parts of every pro shooter script and mash it together. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But
no, you figured it out. That's cool. So videos and YouTube University is kind of what you
exactly. Okay. Yep, pretty much. I think it's a wonderful world that we live in as far as sharing information and being able to soak up information at just a hyper fast rate. I mean, you can go on YouTube and watch thousands of hours of content on how to grip a pistol, how to pull the trigger, how to align sights, how to transition, how to reload, how to drop from the holster, all that stuff for free too. I mean, for the most part, free. Obviously, you have to have self-plan and cell phone stuff, but I think that's incredible. And I think that's partly why you're seeing a lot of this younger generation, like my guys, are accelerating extremely fast in the shooting sports because they have access to they have access to the top tier guys. They have access to the elite guys, what they're doing, what they're training, and how to fix their deficiencies. Where the guys that were in this years ago, it was more of like a step up game. It was like learn from a buddy a little bit better than you. Then you found someone that was a little better than him, a little better. And you just little by little chipped away until you got to the point where you could self correct and self diagnose things.
Yeah.
And I think that process, it just took years and years to develop, where now it's like you can develop that process in a week. It's just, you can't compete with that. Right. And when I started shooting, a lot of the guys that I met that were older, kind of were, I don't want to say discouraging, but they weren't encouraging, we'll say. And they said, you'll be lucky to make A class and different things like that. And I made masterclass like almost immediately, and they haven't said anything since. So, yeah, but there's mutual respect. There's no malice between any of those guys at all. That that they grew up in a different time where it was a lot harder to build skill at an accelerated rate. And now you can do it super fast.
Well, what intrigues me, I have to know this. So, like, you're 19, and obviously started this a couple years ago. Like, how did you even develop the discipline for you to go get better? Like, most kids your age are not going to go out and spend hours on learning and applying it and then going to dry fire and live fire. And seriously, like, how do you motivate yourself?
I mean, it's honestly just, I heard a while ago, and some people say this is a really cheesy, corny thing to say, but I forget who said the quote, but there's two. You're born twice, basically. You're born once, and then you're born again when you find your passion or what you're put here for. And I don't want to say that shooting is what I was put here for, because that seems kind of superficial.
No.
But I just kind of, like I said, when I saw those like hot shot TV shows, kind of referring back to that again, that just clicked. I don't know. It just clicked as like I want to do that on a national level, and I want to do that on a world level too. I want to go be like Max. I want to do that, and I think that just sparked in me from a young age, and I just really haven't let it go since. And I have other interests. People are probably like, "Oh, what do you do? Shoot every day?" It's like, no, I have a lot of other stuff that I do. Actually, it's very hard to even like include shooting in a day-to-day life, just because the amount of stuff. Just my whole family's a very go type people. We're always moving. Like, we're in Maine right now on vacation, and we were just in Kentucky shooting with you and Trace and Brennan Decker and all those guys a couple weeks ago. So it's like we're always moving, always going. So
yeah. Have you considered then going into the Army Marksmanship unit, or is that a possibility, or is it too late? Or
yeah, I've talked with a couple buddies about that, just because of like your resources are like essentially unlimited in that. I just don't think it's in the cards, just because I've already started into a college career, and that's engineering, something I'm very passionate about as well. So yeah, that's something I want to do. So I don't think the AMU is really possible for me, just fair. Because I'm kind of late in the game already, and then so.
It's funny that you say you're late in the game. We say that we're late in the game. We're like, we wish we got started when we were younger. It's the younger man. If any of us start when we're young, like, they're just so much better. most often. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's I mean, you can start. I'm definitely a believer in it's never too late.
Sure.
But that's just something that's just not I just don't see that in the cards for me.
Yeah.
But
so tell me about that. Like, you're in the college career, like you said, and trying to do shooting. I'm sure trying to have a social life, hang out with family. So how does someone, if they're listening to this and they're like similar in age with you, how do they balance all of that and pick and choose what to do?
I'm going to be totally frank with you. I suck at it. I am really bad at it. Yeah, first year of college for me was hellacious, to say the least, because I was trying to balance shooting and going to the gym, because I also really into fitness. Some people would say, they can't tell, whatever, that's their own prerogative. But I'm into a lot of different things. So it was very hard for me to balance everything. And then plus I had some health problems going on first, second semester. So that added on more complexities and more issues to deal with. I would say really time management is your biggest friend. Just being able to just stick to a schedule and be super strict. And my mom's always said, for the younger generations, you're either going to pay now or pay later. And unfortunately, college seems to be the most surefire way to get a jump start in life. And you pay now, grind through 4 years, or you wait down the line and then you have to pay in some form or fashion later on. So I'm trying to pay now. It's definitely not easy. Yeah, time management, and then get into a rhythm or a schedule. I've always found, like, when I was breaking into my second semester, I had a schedule, going to the gym, going to school, everything that I was doing day to day. And when I was doing that consistently in a repeated pattern, it seemed a lot easier. Just time flew by, things got done more efficiently. I was just more effective in all aspects that I wanted to be. Yeah, I would make a schedule. Get into a rhythm and just do it day in, day out, and you just get into a vicious cycle. But it's a good vicious cycle. And
yeah. Do you think that other people your age, or just maybe around you, don't like see how serious like shooting sports is, or how far you are in the shooting sports, or like value that? Like, sometimes I talk to people and like their significant others or their family, like they just don't get it. I don't know if you feel that.
Yeah, I definitely see that in my own family. Definitely different family members were skeptical of, like, where is this going to go? What is this going to lead to? There's no paycheck behind this. And, it's unfortunate that, like, our society has developed to the point where it's like you have to constantly be thinking about, like, where's my next paycheck? Where's the money coming from for all these things?
Yeah.
But that's just the reality of it. It's expensive to live, and it's expensive to live free, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
And do the things you love and want to do. But yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. That was a complete train of thought, I guess. Kind of got railroaded there. I was like, I forgot the question, actually.
No, I mean, it was cool. I mean, it's like it was neat. I got to meet your mom and dad, and they came all the way down with you to shoot Kentucky. And that says a lot when, even after like juniors, right? Like junior shooters, they'll be with their parents till they're 16, 17, 18, whatever. And now you're 19, they're still like coming to see you perform. Yeah. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was the first major match that my mom has ever been to, and she really enjoyed it. She loved you. She's like, I really hit it off with Mackenzie. I can't wait to see her again.
So cute.
And everyone commented, and she was telling her, my sister's name is actually Mackenzie, and she was telling my sister about you, and she's like, you two get along perfectly and all this stuff. But yeah, so I definitely am extremely grateful for my mom and dad, because, as skeptical as they might have been initially, they're totally supportive now and right there with me. But I don't fault them at all for being skeptical, because it's a very like atypical thing for like a 15, 16-year-old to just be so hardwired into, competitive shooting or just anything in general. It's not, most kids my age at that point were like, going to the NFL for football, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. The common things you see. Yep. And I never fell into those categories. I was always just more diversified in different areas, doing a lot of different things at once.
That's cool.
But super grateful they're there with me, and I was extremely grateful to have them there at Kentucky, and they're both going to be here, plus my brother and sister, for the main state championship. So awesome. Really excited about that.
Cool. So, okay, the other thing that I want to talk about is like the mental game too. So, like you said, you've got these external factors, school, the health issues came in to play, all of that too. How do you read? Like, do you meditate? Like, how did you put together your mental game to still perform?
So, I mean, I wouldn't say I have like a specific like outlet. I would say the shooting is more of the outlet, because that's just something, like, when I'm on the range, it's just like there's nothing else going on. It's just like, okay, how can we improve this split time? How can we improve, this deficiency? How can we make this movement more efficient, or this or that? Just basically optimization, constant optimization on the range.
Yep.
I found the gym. I've always kind of went to the gym, ran track all 4 years of high school.
Gross.
I love that a lot. That was just, team sport, but also individualized. So that's kind of, I guess you can kind of see the connection with shooting there because, you might shoot on a team, but it's more of an individualized sport, kind of like track.
Yep.
Really loved running track. I was a sprinter, 100, 200, 4x1. Played 1 year of football, but yeah, so I did a couple different sports, and then those kind of led into the gym. And the gym, I think, helps definitely being able to build your body and maximize your potential in the gym and, hit new PRs and different things. So I would say the gym is probably another outlet, another meditation, if you will. I do a lot, very outdoorsy. Like I said, we have a camp up in North Central PA, so very primitive pot belly for heating in the winter. So we get a lot of firewood, do a lot of forestry work, logging, all types of that stuff. So, I mean, I really enjoy that. Really enjoy being out in the mountains. Mountains are my favorite place in the whole wide world. So, big into snowmobiling, and that's another hardwired passion. So there's a lot of different outlets, I would say. There's a lot
Those
of
are
different
expensive.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we got in again very cheap in the snowmobile. My dad was a big time snowmobiler from the 70s all the way up until 99. Sold everything, and then we got back in 2019 with two old 90s sleds. So it wasn't too bad. We got in pretty economically, but there's a lot of different outlets I have. I wouldn't say I'd value one over another.
So, I mean, if that's like stress relief, sure. But like, so when you're at a match, say like you don't do well on a stage, do you bring it into the next stage, or like how do you shut that out and perform?
Yeah. I don't, it's kind of difficult to like put into words, I guess. I don't have like a training method or like regimen for doing that. It's more just, it's really just kind of in my head in the match, like you have to, I guess, put it in perspective while you're in match mode. And that, like, if you throw a mic on a stage where you have 10, 12 other stages in a match, you can't allow that to affect, the rest of that stage, because I know a lot of different times I'll call a hit, I'll call a mic, but I'm already moving to the next position. So I have to leave it. So you can't allow that to affect the next position or the next target array, let alone bleed into following stages or days, because it just starts to snowball. You just start to get in your own head, and mentally you just have to erase it before every stage and just totally forget the last stage and just take it one stage at a time. It's kind of in the gym. I have the same thing, really big into, the big three: squat, bench, deadlift. And it's kind of the same, which with each PR that I would ever hit, it was always just, one repetition at a time. Even if I was doing a set of 5 or 6 or whatever, it was each rep was its own like whole contest, if you will, or whatever. So you just have to take the match at one stage at a time and make each stage its own mini match, and just have to have that reset button, and part of that I think comes from just your background and your, how you're raised and, mentally how you're wired and structured. And I've just, from a young age, just always been raised to, have that never quit mentality. Don't let things affect you to the point where you can't do better in the future, because if that's just a bad way of planning. If you end up at the end of the day worse than you were at the start of the day, that's just a bad day. It's not good in general. And you can apply that throughout anything.
Do you read?
Like for fun, or what do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, like, you are very well spoken, and you kind of understand life from very many different perspectives. I was just curious, like, who taught you that, or if you read or listen to podcasts. Like,
I don't listen to many podcasts. I don't read like recreationally, if you will, like a lot of different books. I mean, I do a lot of different article reading.
Sure. Okay,
I would say, yeah, a lot of articles. There, not a whole lot of books. Obviously, my stuff for school, but there's not a lot of diversity in that. I would say the biggest thing for me is we'll just put it harshly, I had to grow up really fast because my brother and sister are 33 and 34, and my mom and dad are both in their 60s now. So I had to grow up at a very accelerated rate because I had no one around other than my friends, obviously. I didn't have that, younger sibling, older sibling relationship. So I was around, 18 plus adults my whole life. And we had a pretty large extended family, and we were pretty close and visited a lot, especially with my uncle on my mom's side, very close to him, still see him all the time up at our camp. But I think that was the main thing, is that I had to grow up quickly, and I don't blame anyone for that. Honestly, I would prefer that over. Yeah. But that's just the reality of it. That's just how it was. And I think that kind of developed different things for me that other people might not have developed until later on in life.
Yeah, for
just
sure.
Because of that circumstance.
Yeah. So I know we talked offline about this, but Carry Optics Nationals obviously is coming up. If you were able to get in, right? Like what is your goal if you're able to shoot Carry Optics Nationals? What are you aiming for? What are you realistic about in terms of like your match performance compared to the heavy heat that's going to be at this match?
Yeah. So I definitely think I'm constantly improving. Every major I go to, it seems like I gain more knowledge, definitely, and am able to implement that into training and improve in areas where I had weaknesses. And so far the majors I've been shooting, Kentucky won master class and was running with Trace Decker the whole day, and then about halfway he started to pull away. But that's the difference between a GM and a masterclass. Yeah, I shot very consistently throughout the day, but I didn't feel like I blew anything out of the water. It was just consistent across the board, and I think that's how I got the masterclass win. But I needed to really burn some stages down to run with Trace a little bit closer.
Yeah.
But I still was 91 some percent of him, and then at PA state championship. That was a great match for me in a lot of aspects, but it was also a bad match. I hurt myself basically. 5 mics doesn't help. That one stung a little bit. But I had super fast overall time. The top guys, I had them beat time wise by 6+ seconds. So I know the speed's there. It's just I needed to reel in the hits a little bit better and pull some of those mics onto the cardboard. I've some of the guys in my inner circle know me for the phrase, but how I kind of describe the classification system, so D to GM, is your guys up to master class, they have the horsepower, and a lot of guys that are in the cars will understand this. I'm not sure if you will, but I think you will, because you got a Toyota Tacoma, right?
Yeah.
You know what horsepower is, right? Yeah. Yeah, we're good. No, I'm just kidding. But so they have the horsepower, but they can't get it to the ground. So it's more of a drag racing analogy in that, if you're just painting pavement at the start line and the other guy's running down the drag strip, you're going to lose that race. So I think, as I would say, I have the horsepower. I can see that in the time, but I need to get it to the ground in that I need to reel my hits in. I need to cut out deficiencies and try and optimize everything overall.
Okay.
But nationals, I think a very realistic placement is top 10%. I think I can pull that off. And if I had a fabulous day, spectacular 3 days, shot my heart out every day, I think I could probably crack top 20, maybe top 10. I don't know. I mean, I would have to really push for that, but it's also, we got time to build between now and then, and time to lock things in. But I think top 10% is definitely that's a realistic goal for me. If I can get there, if I can get to Talladega, that's going to be the first goal.
Yeah, that bucket thing. So I saw today, like, you were at the range, even though you're traveling, right? That was today.
Yes. I know the match director for this main match, Zach Greenery, and I spoke with him last week about. I explained my situation that we were going on family vacation, and I signed up to shoot this match, but it would be like almost 10 days with no live fire before the match. And some people will say, big whoop or whatever. And to me, I don't like going into a major match doing that. I like to at least have some dry fire. Yeah. So right before we started this, I went to the range that the main match is going to be held at and talked with Zach, and he gave me a bay and some target stands, and I had a little practice session, like 200 rounds or so. Super grateful to Zach Grenier and the Trident Armory shooting team. Very grateful. Sure. But
what drills are you running to, like in live fire? What does that look like before a major match?
So before a major match, I really try to just zero back in on like fundamental stuff like grip, recoil control, transitions, really getting visual patience dialed in, and just my vision overall tight and right. But I don't do a whole lot of movement stuff before a major, at least this year. I would like to start doing a little bit more movement stuff. But I think I do enough of that weeks prior, that the week before, for some reason this year, the week before has just been super busy for me. So I don't have enough time to like implement movement into live fire. I just have time to just go out, stand and deliver type shooting.
Sure.
But I do a lot of build drills. I think build drills are extremely beneficial to developing that hyper fast vision speed that you need to be able to track that dot in recoil while that slide is cycling. Mm-hmm. At least for carry optics, opens a little bit different game and rifles and stuff. But and then I do a lot of Blake drills. I think that's good for building your transitions to wicked fast speeds. Just Blake drills at 7 yards. Something I've actually started since Area 5 last year was I only shoot tux targets now. So yeah. So last year at Area 5, I had 4 or 5 mics all on tux targets within 3 yards.
I believe it. This is what the GMs, it was funny, like someone this weekend and then a class that I took was like, oh yeah, GMs will miss, open paper, but also tuxes at 3 yards. That's their hardest target.
Yeah, and people don't understand. They'll look at like someone shooting whatever drill you want to name, and they're like, well, that's not that hard to put 6 rounds in an A zone at 7 yards. It's like, yeah, if you go at the speed of a sloth, I mean, if you're trying to push speed and constantly just trying to go to that next level, shave that 1/10 of a second off and shoot it under 2 seconds, under 1 3/4, 1.5 seconds, it's hard. It's very hard, especially to keep those hits nice and tight. It's very hard to do that. And that's why people see GMs miss those targets and they're like, how is that possible? It's like, because they're trying to push. They're going 120% into that target. And sometimes you come up short.
Yeah. So would you ever actually go take a class? And the reason I asked that, it's kind of funny. I'm taking a couple. I took one this weekend. Trace was in the class as well. And he looks at me. He's like, I wish I had done this 3 years ago. And I'm like, no shit. Because the better shooters, instructors in general, but like those better shooters are going to be able to teach you, as a Mason Lane class, by the way, are going to be able to teach you the things that you're doing wrong to get to that elite level, or they're going to be able to see the things that you don't see. And for Trace, he's going to have to unlearn some things, even though he's at the GM level, right? Like there are things that bad habits, right, that he's kind of gotten that is a 1/2 second, right, difference, but that's what matters at the top.
Yep. If you look at all these majors and nationals, 1st through 10th is not separated by much. It's not. We're talking fractions of a percent. If you just look at Max and JJ Rakaza and how they've battled each other throughout the years, they've won matches by 10ths of points. Yep. 1/10 of a point, Max wins the match. 1/10 of a point, JJ wins the match. Mm-hmm. And that's what it takes. And is there some luck involved in that? I would be more inclined to say to a degree, but as Jerry Mitchell says, better be lucky than good any day. So
yeah. So class, maybe
it's hard because I have been on the self-taught journey for a while, and I'm very stubborn on that, and that like I want to do it myself. And you can talk to anyone that knows me. I'm very like obstinate to learn from other people. Like it's very hard for me to learn from other people.
I'll challenge you this. You haven't been alone. You've got a mom and dad that have helped you.
That's true. Yeah.
Not
Loopholes.
done. Not done.
Loopholes. Come on.
Taylor freelance, like you said. You said Springco, right?
Springco, and the newest one, Black Bullets International, just picked me up. So shooting with Brennan Conaway and all those guys on Black Bullets. So very grateful for that as well.
Don't become a rotten boy.
No, and
some people listening will know.
Some people will probably watch this and be like, screw this guy. He just wants to learn on his own. He never wants any help. No. And it's like, yeah, and I understand that perspective, and they can have that perspective. It's more of just like it's so funny because the more I talk about this, the more I see. I have a buddy that's like this in the gym. Any external motivation, he gets super pissed if you give him any external motivation, like where you're like, one more rep or anything like that. He just goes incendiary. I mean, it's just, and I'm starting to see similarities there, but I think that's honestly what it is. It's just I want to do it independently because I almost subconsciously see it as a weakness if I learn from someone else. And some people say that that's psychologically flawed, and I would agree. It is. It's very psychologically flawed. I live with two psychologists, so I would know. Brother and mom, both.
Fair enough.
So
we'll let you be, but I think when you get there and you're like frustrated, and I think that you like go take a class, you're like,
I'm definitely, it's more open now than ever. You know, I actually was just looking at some different classes the other day from Ben Stoger. I was looking.
Brennan's taking that one in September, I want to say, in Kentucky. So
yeah, the biggest thing, again, like it's come down to like budget for me, money, and that like I look at it as like, okay, I go take a class and spend $300 at a minimum just to get into the class, and then you have probably that in your food and fuel and all your travel expenses. Yeah. And then now ammo's increased, so you're going to be shooting Ben Stoger's class. You're probably shooting minimum of 1,000 rounds.
Oh yeah,
so
you're like 1,000.
I mean, you're looking wrapped up together. You're looking at $1,000 bare minimum to take one of these classes, and it's just like college student.
I know.
Snowmobiler. Yeah. All of these stuff. You can tick them all off, and it's like that money just isn't there. That's the hard thing with me, and that's kind of where I get the, El Cheapo on the gear, is that like I look at it as, why would I get a different hanger when I can take that money and go spend it on primers and get better shooting, by buying 1,000 primers or something like that. And that's kind of my perception on the class. But I, of course, know that if I did the class, I would probably grow exponentially.
For sure.
Just from taking one class. But it's really just an economic thing for me, just because, then that takes away from matches too, because then that's money that I can't spend to go shoot matches.
I get it. The sport is not cheap.
At some point, I got too many expensive sports, Kenzie. It's just too much. Snowmobiles, it's just crazy.
At least if you pursue engineering, you'll make decent money.
That's true. That's the plan. That's the thing my mom is always driving. She's like, you got to be an engineer so you can pay for all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
It's not wrong.
So,
okay, you mentioned primers, so let's talk about that actually. Reloading. So what is your recipe for carry optics that you're using?
So I've used a couple different bullets over the years, but what I've grown to really like is black bullets. Obviously, I wouldn't be shooting them if I didn't like. But their bullet is, from what I've tested, and I've tested a lot of different bullets from probably a dozen different companies and half a dozen or more different bullet weights, with different loads and stuff. And black bullets seems to be the most consistent for me. Their coating seems to be very reliable in thickness, because you'll see some companies, especially going through the last couple of years, QC has kind of been questionable for some companies, and that their high-tech polymer coating is a little bit thicker, so it won't seat in the casing properly, and then you might get one jammed in the chamber or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But black bullets through all of that has been super consistent, extremely great with shipping. All the bullet weights I've weighed thousands of them, and they're all, I shoot the 125 grain conicals, so they're like a truncated cone, and they're right on 125, always within a grain. So they're extremely consistent. And then powder, I use tight group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I figured. I was just talking to a couple of people about that in the past few weeks, and a lot of people kind of scowl at me.
It's just dirty. That's all. It's hard.
You're a human being for using that. And I'm like, well, it's economical. That's the whole thing for me. If you've noticed, there's a trend in all of this. It's all about follow the money. Follow the money.
Oh, I know. So but, what is your power factor?
I like to be right around like 129 to 131. So 130, call it basically.
Yeah.
I have skims by at Chrono. I think the lowest I've ever done is like 125.8. But that was not my fault, because it was at a match that I will not name. They put all of our Chrono rounds in an ice cold cooler.
Why?
Did I cut out there for a second?
Yeah, see, they put all your rounds in a cooler, and I asked, why would they do that?
That's the same question that we all had, because we got to Chrono and opened. They opened the cooler, and we just thought they had it in a cooler, and it's like, that's okay because they don't want them in like direct sunlight. Sure. But then there was ice in the cooler, and we're like, that. How was that fair? Like, because most of our powder is temperature sensitive.
Yep.
For now, there were a couple guys on our squad that had powder that was inverse temperature sensitive, so their power factors were like through the roof. Yeah, but all of us guys shooting normal powder, it was bad.
Confusing. But
that was the closest I've ever got. Most of the time, it's right around 130. That's where I like to shoot them. I'm not a super believer in 136.2 power factor is like the perfect load, or I don't think you should punish yourself like unnecessarily. I don't think you need to shoot 140 in a CO gun to prove anything. It's like,
yeah,
there's a floor, there's a power factor floor for a reason. So
yeah, okay. Just in general, so switching gears, I know that there's a lot right now in the country going on for sure. For you, I mean, again, like you're still underage-ish, but like, how do you feel about like what you're going to do when you turn of age to concealed carry or get involved with the Second Amendment and stuff like that? Like, what's important to you?
Absolutely will be concealed carrying as soon as I turn 21. I mean, if I could concealed carry right now, I'd be doing it. I definitely believe in, building skill, being ready. We've seen in recent times different people that have been put in horrible, horrible situations that were carrying, and thank God they were proficient with their firearm and rose to the occasion and stopped the threat, and were able to save countless innocent lives. And I think that's absolutely crucial, that if you're going to carry a firearm, you need to get proper training and understand forward and backwards, left to right, north and south of everything on that pistol and your abilities too.
Yep.
Know what you're capable of. If you're not capable of making a 40-yard shot, then don't try to do that in a public active shooter situation. But I recommend you need to be able to do that. So you should build skill to that point to where you can do that. Yeah, I absolutely 100% support concealed carry, and will be as soon as I can. But PA, 21, and we have permit carry. So
yeah, yep, awesome. No, I'm excited for you. Just in general too, like what do you? I know you're pursuing your career in like college and all that, but what would you want to get out of shooting? Like, what's that future look like, or your big dream? Like, what does that look like for you?
I mean, part of me wants to say it's changed over time, but it really hasn't. The goal for me is to be as dominant of a shooter as like Max is. That's my goal, is to just be that absolutely dominant that it's just incredibly hard to beat. And to some people that might seem egotistical, and it's just, I don't see it as that. I see it as more of just being an elite level person and putting in the work, putting in the hours, putting in the time to get to that point. and the people that complain about that or would complain about that, they're not putting in the time.
Yep.
I guess if you had to say the ultimate goal, like what will I feel accomplished? I don't think I'd ever feel accomplished, but the top tier thing is winning worlds. I want to win worlds.
Okay.
So, some people are gonna judge the hell out of that, but I don't care. That's the goal.
I think every single person that ever got a national title or a world title has told themselves that they're going to do it and told other people they're going to do it and been determined to do it.
I mean, since I saw the first day of the 2014 Worlds when Max was shooting, and I followed that all throughout every day, that was kind of like, that's what I want to do right there. Mm-hmm. That's what I want to do that. I want to get that title. That's what I want.
Okay. So. Look, I'll be watching. I'm excited for you. Awesome. Well, is there anything that I didn't cover, didn't ask you, or left out, or any final tips of wisdom that you want to leave people with?
We covered everything. I think a very crucial point to this entire experience here is that you can get into the shooting sports for an economical rate. You can get into things. I don't have expensive gear. It's all, like I said before, the Indian, not the arrow. It's about building yourself as an individual, building up your proficiencies. You don't need expensive gear. You don't need to go out and buy a Mark 7 reloading press and Infinity open gun. I'm loading on a Lee Loadmaster, which a lot of people are gonna shun at, but yeah, Lee Loadmaster is what I use with the Canik, and it's all very economical equipment, and I think that should be a extremely big point for manufacturers to focus on. Is allowing people to get into shooting sports and into just the Second Amendment community and firearms in general at an economical rate, because a lot of times people get priced out, and that's just unfortunate because we're losing people that we could have had as supporters, and more people concealed carrying, more people getting involved in shooting sports, all those different things. We could have been growing the community more overall, but we're losing it because of them being priced out. Yep. And because of our current situation with supply lines. Yeah. But I think if you have a goal, if you have an idea in mind that you want to pursue, there's no better time to chase it than right now, because it's not going to chase you back.
100%. 100%. No matter where you are at in life, what age, what time, whatever, start or like you said,
right now, not next Tuesday, not Monday, not in 30 minutes, right now. Yeah. Start right now. You'll never regret it, certainly. And if you have the grit to get it done, you'll be extremely proud of yourself and your accomplishments, and you'll always remember that as being a great journey to the finish line. And always look 150 meters past the 100-meter mark, as my old track coach used to say.
I like that. Awesome, Lane. Well, how do you want to leave listeners with, like, your social media, sponsors? I know you've mentioned before, if you want to take time to thank them or anything like that.
So social media wise, I just have Instagram. It's lane.nelson.shooting on IG. That's the only social media I have at the moment. I post shooting stuff, but other stuff too. Like I said, different interests, but extremely grateful for all my sponsors. Everyone I've picked up: Black Bullets International, Sprinko USA, Taylor Freelance, Paper and Seal Apparel Company. Super big on all those guys. They've been extremely supportive, very gracious, and I'm very thankful for their support, and hopefully can make them proud for many years to come.
Love it. Well, Lane, thank you for joining me on the podcast. Hopefully we squat up again together. And I can't wait. Can't wait to see your parents.
They can't wait to see you either.
I make quite the impression, and there's no middle of people. They either love me or hate me.
Yeah, Mom keeps talking about it. She can't wait to see you.
Oh, love it. Cool. Well, all you listeners of the Ready Flip podcast, stay tuned for more coming soon. Go follow this impressive young gentleman. He is maybe the next world champion. Who knows? So I know I'll be watching. So pressure's on, Lane.
All right. I'll take it.
Awesome. Stay tuned, guys, for the next episode of the Reticle Up Podcast. Thanks for listening to the Reticle Up Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Follow along on social media at Reticle Up or 3 Gun Kenzie.